Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every life when the world tries to break you, when doubt screams louder than your dreams, when pain feels endless, and when giving up seems easier than holding on. But I want you to hear me clearly right now. You are not broken. You are unbreakable. Somewhere along the way, life made you forget the power that's been inside you all along. You started believing that your circumstances define you, that your past dictates your future, that your failures are who you are. But that's a lie. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are the force that rises through it. Today, we're going to reignite that power, the one buried beneath fear, beneath disappointment, beneath the stories that told you you can't. Because the truth is you can and you will. The unbreakable version of you is still in there, fierce, unstoppable, alive. So as you listen today, don't just hear my words, feel them. Let them wake up the giant within you. Because from this moment on, you're going to remember exactly who you are, unbreakable. Pain is not the end. It's the beginning of power. Most people spend their lives running from pain, avoiding discomfort, avoiding failure, avoiding rejection, believing that if they can just stay safe, they'll stay strong. But that's the biggest illusion life sells us. Pain doesn't break you. Pain builds you. It's the raw material of strength, the fire that forges resilience, the teacher that no comfort zone can ever replace. Every time you felt broken, you weren't being destroyed, you were being rebuilt. The truth is, power isn't born from ease, it's born from endurance. The strongest souls you'll ever meet are not the ones who had the easiest path, but the ones who faced the storm and refused to bow to it. Think about it. Every time you've overcome something, you didn't just survive it, you expanded because of it. That heartbreak that nearly shattered you taught you how to love yourself deeper. That failure that embarrassed you showed you what real growth demands. That loss that crushed you taught you how precious life truly is. You discovered new layers of your strength that you never knew existed because the pain forced you to dig deeper than comfort ever would. Pain has a purpose. It's not punishment. It's life's way of pushing you to evolve, to adapt, to rise to a higher standard of who you are meant to be. We live in a world where we glorify ease, where people chase comfort like it's the ultimate prize. But comfort doesn't create warriors. It creates weakness. The people who achieve greatness, the ones who transform their lives and inspire millions, they all have one thing in common. They stopped running from pain. They looked it in the eye and said, teach me. When you embrace pain, instead of avoiding it, it becomes your ally, not your enemy. It becomes the force that sharpens you, that humbles you, that prepares you for something greater than what you were before. There's a moment in every person's life where they face the wall, where nothing seems to work, where every step forward feels like quicksand pulling them down. And it's in that very moment when most people give up, that transformation begins. Pain breaks the shell of who you were so that the real you can emerge. It's like a seed cracking open. It looks like destruction, but it's the only way growth can happen. Without that pressure, without that darkness, there is no bloom. When you shift your relationship with pain, everything changes. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You start asking, what is this teaching me? You stop seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances and start recognizing yourself as the creator of your response. Because that's where your true power lies, not in avoiding pain, but in how you respond to it. Every challenge is a mirror reflecting the strength you forgot you had. The more you lean into it, the more unshakable you become. So when life hits you, don't shrink back. Don't numb yourself. Don't wait for the pain to disappear. Stand in it. Feel it. Let it burn away everything that's not real. Your excuses, your self-doubt, your fear, and watch what remains the core of who you are. That's your power. That's your truth. The people who rise from the ashes of their pain are the ones who no longer fear it. They know that pain is not there to end them. It's there to awaken them. Every scar you carry has proved that pain didn't win. It tried, but you're still here. And that means you're stronger than you think, braver than you realize, and far more powerful than you've ever believed. Pain is not your enemy. It's your greatest invitation to step into the fullness of your strength, to rediscover the power you forgot you had, and to become truly unbreakable. Your mind is the most powerful weapon you possess, but it can either become your greatest ally or your worst enemy. Every experience you have, every dream you chase, every obstacle you face, how you experience it is filtered through the meaning your mind gives it. The mind can build empires or it can build prisons. The choice between the two lies in how you train it. Most people are not held back by their circumstances. They're held hostage by their thoughts. The bars of the prison aren't made of steel. They're made of fear, doubt, and self-limiting beliefs. And those are built not by what happens to you, but by what you tell yourself about what happens. The human mind has incredible power to shape reality. Whatever you focus on, you feel. Whatever you feel consistently, you act upon. And whatever you act upon becomes your life. That's the chain. But most people focus on what's missing instead of what's possible. They focus on their pain instead of their potential, their limits instead of their leverage. The result, they live in a mental prison created by their own thinking patterns. Freedom doesn't begin when life changes. It begins when your thinking changes. You can't control the world, but you can always control what meaning you give to it. The difference between people who rise and people who stay stuck isn't luck, it's mindset. Two people can go through the same storm, yet one grows stronger while the other crumbles. Why? Because one says, this is happening to destroy me, while the other says, this is happening to strengthen me. The story you attach to your experiences determines how you live them. Your brain is always listening, always taking direction from the words you speak and the thoughts you repeat. Tell it you're powerless, and it will find proof of your weakness. Tell it you're capable, and it will begin searching for solutions. You see, the mind has a pattern. Left unchecked, it will drift toward fear because fear is safe. It keeps you small. It keeps you in the known. It keeps you from failing, but it also keeps you from living. To break free, you must interrupt that pattern. You must take conscious control and train your mind to see possibility where it once saw pain. Every time your mind tells you, I can't, you have to answer with, watch me. Every time it whispers, you're not enough, you respond with, I've been enough all along. The moment you stop being a slave to your thoughts and start becoming their master, you begin to live with intention instead of reaction. The truth is, your thoughts are just suggestions. They're not commands and they're not facts. But when you believe every thought that enters your head, you hand over the keys to your freedom. To build mental freedom, you have to become aware of what you're focusing on, what you're saying to yourself, and what emotional state you're reinforcing every day. That awareness gives you choice, and choice is where real power begins. Your mind is not meant to be your cage, it's meant to be your engine. When you fill it with clarity, gratitude, and purpose, it becomes unstoppable. When you fuel it with fear, self-pity, and doubt, it becomes a trap. The shift between the two is small but life-changing. It's deciding that you control your thoughts, not the other way around. The unbreakable person is not the one who never feels fear or doubt, but the one who refuses to let those feelings dictate their life. So the next time your mind tries to convince you that you're stuck, remind yourself it's just a story, and stories can be rewritten. Every great transformation begins with a new narrative. Choose one that empowers you. Choose one that reminds you of your strength, your resilience, your worth. Because the moment you do, the walls of your mental prison start to crumble, and what's left is freedom, the kind that no one can take away. Your mind creates either your prison or your freedom, and the key has been in your hands all along. Fear is one of the most misunderstood emotions in the human experience. People see fear as an enemy, as something that must be eliminated before they can move forward. But the truth is, fear is not there to stop you, it's there to guide you. Fear is a signal, not a stop sign. It's the mind's way of saying, pay attention, something meaningful is happening here. When you feel fear, it doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're standing on the edge of growth. It means you're about to step into something that matters. Every great breakthrough, every extraordinary success, every personal transformation, each one begins at the border of fear. The people who achieve greatness in life don't do it because they're fearless. They do it because they've learned to act despite fear. They've learned to reinterpret what fear means. They no longer see it as a threat, but as a compass pointing toward what truly matters to them. When something scares you, it usually means it's aligned with your potential. Fear shows up when you're about to challenge your comfort zone, when you're stretching your limits, when you're stepping into the unknown. If you never feel fear, it simply means you're not growing. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid fear, building routines, habits, and excuses to stay safe. But what they don't realize is that safety often becomes a silent cage. You can't chase your dreams and protect your comfort zone at the same time. One of them has to go. When you avoid fear, you avoid growth. When you confront it, you evolve. The power lies not in the absence of fear, but in your willingness to feel it and move forward anyway. That's courage, not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. Think of fear as energy neutral, raw power. You get to decide how to use it. It can paralyze you or it can propel you. The same adrenaline that makes your heart race in panic is the same fuel that can make you unstoppable when directed toward your purpose. When you shift your perspective, fear stops being a wall and starts becoming a doorway. Every time you walk through it, your confidence expands. You start realizing that what once terrified you no longer has power over you because you faced it and discovered that you're still standing. The problem is not fear itself. It's the story you tell yourself about it. When you say, I'm afraid, so I shouldn't, you hand over your power. But when you say, I'm afraid, so I must, you reclaim control. Fear becomes the teacher instead of the tyrant. Every time you follow fear toward growth, it rewards you with strength, self-trust, and resilience. You learn that fear is not a sign you're on the wrong path. It's often the greatest confirmation that you're exactly where you need to be. The secret to becoming unbreakable is learning to dance with fear instead of fighting it. Fear will never go away, no matter how successful or experienced you become. It evolves with you. But if you can make peace with it, if you can see it as a reminder that you're alive, expanding and pushing the edges of your potential, then fear becomes your companion instead of your cage. The more you practice facing it, the smaller it gets. What once seemed impossible starts to feel natural. What once scared you becomes your new normal. So when fear shows up, and it will, don't turn away. Look it straight in the eyes and thank it for showing you where your next level begins. Feel it fully, then take one bold step forward anyway. Because fear loses its grip the moment you take action. Every time you move through fear, you reclaim a piece of your power that you once gave away. You realize that courage was never about being fearless. It was about choosing to move forward even when your knees shake. And in that moment, you don't just conquer fear, you transcend it. Fear was never meant to stop you. It was meant to awaken the unbreakable power within you. You don't need motivation, you need a decision. Most people wait for motivation to strike before they take action. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect mood, the perfect alignment of circumstances to begin. But motivation is fleeting. It's a spark, not a source of fuel. If you rely on it, you'll always be at the mercy of your emotions. True change doesn't begin when you feel ready. It begins when you decide to start, no matter how you feel. Every transformation, every victory, every breakthrough starts with one clear, firm decision. Enough. This is not who I am anymore. The power to change your life has never been about waiting for the right feeling. It's about making the right choice. The moment you decide, you shift from hesitation to action. Decision is the bridge between intention and reality. The reason so many people stay stuck is not because they lack potential. It's because they keep negotiating with their limitations. They say they want more, but they're not willing to decide that they deserve more. They talk about what they want, but they don't commit to what it takes. Motivation whispers softly and disappears when things get tough. Decision roars. It says, I'm doing this even if it's hard, even if I fail, even if no one believes in me. That's when the world starts to move in your favor. When you make a real decision, your mind stops looking for escape routes. It stops entertaining doubt. It starts finding solutions. You stop asking, can I? And start asking, how will I? That shift changes everything. Decisions cut off all other possibilities. In fact, the word decide comes from the Latin word decidere, which literally means to cut off. When you decide, you cut off fear, hesitation, and indecision. You cut off the old identity that no longer serves you. And what's left is focus, commitment, and clarity, the ingredients for transformation. Motivation is emotional. Decision is intentional. Motivation fades when life gets hard. Decision endures because it's rooted in purpose, not mood. When you live by motivation, you act when it's convenient. When you live by decision, you act because it's as necessary. You understand that growth requires consistency, and consistency isn't always comfortable, but it's always worth it. The moment you decide, something within you shifts. You tap into a deeper level of discipline, one that doesn't depend on how inspired you feel. Every great achiever you've ever admired didn't wait to feel ready. They acted first. They decided that their vision was non-negotiable, that their dreams were worth the discomfort. That's what separates the successful from the stagnant decision. The person who gets fit, the entrepreneur who builds an empire, the survivor who rebuilds their life after loss, they all made a decision that their past would not define their future. And once that decision is made, action follows naturally. If you want to become unbreakable, stop waiting to feel strong. Decide that you are strong. Stop waiting for inspiration to strike. Decide that your goals are not optional. Decide that your dream is worth your fight. Once you make that inner commitment, the world begins to respond. Doors open, opportunities appear, and your energy shifts. But it all begins with a decision, a moment when you say, no more excuses, no more delays. This is who I am now. Life doesn't respond to wishful thinking. It responds to decisive action. Every time you choose to act in alignment with your vision instead of your fears, you strengthen your unbreakable muscle. You teach yourself that you don't need to be motivated. You just need to keep your promises to yourself. Because motivation might get you started, but decision is what keeps you going when the excitement fades. So stop waiting for the perfect time. It doesn't exist. The power is not in tomorrow, it's in now. Decide who you are, decide what you stand for, decide what you will no longer tolerate, and then move with purpose. Once you decide, you'll discover that motivation was never the key. You were. Every person lives inside a pattern, a cycle of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that repeats day after day, shaping the quality of their life. Some patterns create growth, peace, and progress. Others create frustration, fear, and limitation. The truth is simple. If you want to change your life, you have to break your patterns. Because as long as you repeat the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, and take the same actions, your results will never change. Most people want a new life, but they're living the same day on repeat. They think change comes from wishing harder or waiting longer, but real change begins the moment you disrupt what's familiar. Break your patterns, and you'll break your limits. The mind loves patterns because they create a sense of safety. Your brain is designed to conserve energy, to take the easiest path, to repeat what's known, even if what's known is painful. That's why people stay in toxic relationships, destructive habits, or limiting routines. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar growth. The brain says, at least I know what to expect here, but safety isn't the same as fulfillment. If you want to live an extraordinary life, you have to be willing to break the patterns that keep you ordinary. You must become aware of the automatic scripts that play in your mind every day, the excuses, the fears, that this is just how I am stories, and interrupt them before they shape your future. Breaking a pattern begins with awareness. You can't change what you don't see. Notice your triggers. Notice the thoughts that show up when things get hard. Do you shut down? Do you procrastinate? Do you tell yourself it's not possible? These are the invisible walls that keep you stuck. The moment you catch yourself in the loop, you have power. the power to choose differently. That single conscious interruption begins to rewire your brain. Every time you choose courage over comfort, growth over habit, faith over fear, you weaken the old pattern and strengthen a new one. The second step is action, doing something that defies your old story. If your pattern is avoiding tough conversations, have one. If your pattern is doubting your worth, speak your truth out loud. If your pattern is quitting when it gets hard, stay in the discomfort and keep going. Each time you act against the old pattern, you build a new identity. You're telling your subconscious mind, this is who I am now. The old you was controlled by fear and reaction. The new you acts with intention and power. That's how transformation happens. Not overnight, but through repeated interruptions of the old and reinforcement of the new. Understand that breaking patterns is uncomfortable. It feels wrong at first because your nervous system has been trained to see change as danger. You'll feel resistance. You'll want to go back to what's familiar. That's normal. But if you can sit with that discomfort and move through it, you'll experience something extraordinary, freedom. The moment you prove to yourself that you can act differently, the limits of your past begin to dissolve. You realize that nothing external has been holding you back. It was always your patterns. When you start to master this, life transforms. You stop reacting and start creating. You stop living by default and start living by design. You realize that every breakthrough, every new level of success, love, confidence, or peace requires a pattern to die. That's why the process feels painful at first. You're shedding the old identity to make space for the new. But once you break through, that pain turns into power. You begin to feel unstoppable because you've proven that your past patterns no longer define you. The unbreakable person is not someone who never falls into old habits. It's someone who recognizes them faster and refuses to stay there. Every time you interrupt a pattern that once controlled you, you reclaim your power. You remember that you are the architect of your life, not a prisoner of your programming. So if you want to rise higher, don't wait for permission. Break the cycle. Because the moment you break your patterns, you don't just change what you do, you change who you are. And that's when you discover that your limits were never real. They were just habits you hadn't yet outgrown. Unbreakable isn't about never falling. It's about always rising. So many people believe that strength means perfection. That power means never showing weakness, never stumbling, never failing. But the truth is, no one is unbreakable because they never fall. They're unbreakable because they refuse to stay down. Life will knock you down again and again. You'll lose things you thought you could never live without. You'll make mistakes that hurt. You'll face moments that make you question everything. But every fall is an invitation to rise higher. The measure of your strength is not how flawless your journey looks, but how many times you stand back up when life hits you hardest. Falling doesn't mean failure. It means you're in the arena. It means you're trying, risking, stretching, growing. People who never fall are usually the ones who never step out of their comfort zone. They live safe, small lives protected from failure, but also cut off from fulfillment. The unbreakable ones are different. They've been through heartbreaks, losses, rejections, and disappointments that would have destroyed most people. Yet they rise. They take the pain and turn it into purpose. They take the failures and turn them into fuel. They understand that resilience isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, one comeback at a time. When you fall, you meet the real you, the one beyond the mask, beyond the ego, beyond the expectations. Falling strips away the illusion of control and forces you to face your essence. It's there in those raw, broken moments that you discover your true power. Every scar tells a story of survival. Every setback becomes a lesson. And every rise makes you stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. That's how unbreakable people are made. Not through ease, but through endurance. They don't escape the storm. They learn to dance in it. The key to always rising lies in your mindset. Most people fall and focus on the ground. They obsess over what went wrong, who's to blame, what they lost. The unbreakable person focuses on the climb. They ask, what is this teaching me? How can I grow from this? They don't let a single fall define them because they know it's just a chapter, not the story. They see failure not as the opposite of success, but as part of the path to it. Every comeback gives them confidence. Every challenge builds their courage. When you rise enough times, you stop fearing the fall because you realize it's not the end. It's a beginning. Resilience is a choice. It's the moment when everything in you wants to give up, but something deeper whispers, not yet. It's choosing to believe that there's still more inside you, even when you're exhausted, even when no one's cheering, even when it hurts to try again. That decision to rise one more time changes everything. It's in that moment that you rewrite your story from one of defeat to one of victory. Because every time you get back up, you reclaim a piece of your power. You prove to yourself that nothing outside you is stronger than what's inside you. Being unbreakable doesn't mean life gets easier. It means you get stronger. It means no matter what comes, pain, loss, failure, you know you can handle it. You've been tested and tempered like steel in the fire. You carry wisdom in your scars and strength in your soul. When others see endings, you see rebirth. When others see ruins, you see rebuilding. That's what makes you unbreakable. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of purpose in the midst of it. So don't be afraid to fall. Don't be ashamed of your scars. Each one is proof that you refuse to stay down. Rise again and again as many times as it takes, because every rise redefines you. Every comeback sharpens your spirit, and one day you'll look back and realize you never truly broke. You only bent, learned, adapted, and grew stronger. That's the essence of being unbreakable, not perfection, but persistence. Not avoiding the fall, but mastering the rise.